Welcome to the Wrestling Philosophy Show, where we discuss unique perspectives and beliefs on the sport of wrestling. Give us a follow or subscribe on various social media platforms, including YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Enjoy the show.
Show 43, we sit down with Frank Beasley of George Mason University. He shares with us his Be Uncommon philosophy on the sport. He also discusses how he recruits coaches. Thank you for your time, Coach Beasley. If you know a coach in or out of the sport of wrestling that may enjoy these perspectives, please give it a share. What's going on, Coach Beasley? How you doing today?
Doing great. How about yourself?
No complaints here. Not at all. Another day of wrestling here in Ohio. So I'll take it.
You guys are up and running, right?
Yeah. One of the few states still going. We're talking, I coach. So we had a match already. Some teams have gotten matches in, some not so far at the high school level. We just had a youth tournament here in town. So it was pretty, obviously sessions smaller than usual, but wrestling's going here in Ohio. But so we'll take it a day at a time. That's all we can do, right?
That's awesome.
So I guess we jump right in. What was your first experience or first practice in wrestling?
So I kind of got tricked into wrestling, right? So I liked pro wrestling. I was a big pro wrestling fan as a kid. And at 10, my dad saw a thing in the newspaper about, local junior wrestling team. It was they practiced at the high school, and he saw a thing in there, and basically he knew what it was and tricked me into going and said, hey, if you want to be a professional wrestler, you got to learn this first. So, I think this will be good for you. I'll take you to it if you want to go. And I was like, heck yeah. And I remember, I'll never forget that first practice. I had no idea what I was doing. I thought I was going to be like hitting somebody with a chair. And, obviously it was totally different. And I fell in love with it from that first practice. And the first move I learned was a penetration shot and a low single. And so I actually didn't learn a double single or high crotch that first year. The only shot I learned that first season, because it was, mid-January. And I think our postseason started, at the beginning of February. So it was a couple weeks of practice before the postseason. And they had already gone through all that. So the first thing I learned was a low single. And I'll never forget that.
And you're hooked from day one, huh?
I couldn't get enough. I fell in love with it. And I was 10 and I started basically wrestling year round from that point.
Oh, wow. Nice. That's awesome. Was that Illinois? Is that where?
Yep. Southern Illinois.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Central Youth Wrestling Association.
Okay. Cool. So you're hooked from the start. At what point did you know you wanted to get into coaching?
Almost from the beginning. Right.
Oh, yeah.
And so I was as a kid, I was kind of a career oriented, or maybe not career oriented, but I was always like, okay, what am I going to do next? What am I going to do? My parents owned a small business that I worked in. And so, there's always kind of this overarching, like you're going to work and you're going to do something, and so we grew up working in the business, and it was kind of like, I started wrestling. I was like, I love this, if I'm gonna be a pro wrestler, and if that doesn't work out, then I'm going to be, I'm going to coach wrestling, do what my coaches are doing for me. Probably within the first year, I kind of, I had decided I wanted to do that. And, at the time I was like, I want to come back to this club because this club's awesome. And I love my coaches and whatnot. And so pretty quickly, I knew I wanted to coach. And then, as I go through junior high and then high school, once I got to high school, I was like, well, I want to come back and I want to coach this team. I want to be the high school coach at my high school. And then I went to college and I was like, all right, I don't necessarily want to do that. I want to be a college coach. This is awesome. And, and then obviously I was fortunate to, coach the world championships and stuff like that. And, I enjoy that side of it, and I enjoy the RTCs and all of that. But, I think the college age group is where I'm most passionate about. And so I was fortunate to be able to end up, coaching that age group primarily.
That's awesome. That's pretty cool. You've had a long list of experience in the coaching level. You've been able to coach, like you said, world championships, pretty close with Gwiz, right?
Yeah. I was, fortunate to be able to coach him all the way through college at Binghamton, and then at NC State, and then internationally after he graduated there for a little while.
That's awesome. Yeah, he's had some. It's that RTC Cup, man. That was some barn burner matches, man. That one went down 8-0 and came back.
Yeah, yeah, no,
That was
he's a
awesome.
student of the sport, and
Yeah.
it was a lot of fun coaching him because he looks at things a lot different than most young men, and he really analyzes it and studies it, and there's a reason he's as good as he is, and that's because of the work he puts in, and it's not just what he does on the mat; it's the way he thinks about wrestling and analyzes it, and he has a pretty sharp mind for it of how to train, how to overcome things, how to wrestle certain opponents. He breaks it down and analyzes it, and he's a really good student of the sport.
You still keep in touch with him, or?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Try to. He's a great guy, and I like to stay in touch with him. He's got a great sense of humor. So I was actually watching their wrestle off the other day on Rockfin. He was commentating it and broadcasting it from his channel, and so
Oh, really
just kind of
nice.
going back and forth, trying to give him a hard time on there.
Nice. That's awesome. That's awesome. So switching gears a little bit, talking about your program, obviously, right? You you've came in with a bang, right? With your set standard and your philosophy on coaching and your what you have to bring to the program. Can you fill us in on that?
Yeah, yeah. So, the big thing is the culture. I think is the most important thing. I mean, we have a pretty high standard for our guys, and I believe that this age group they want structure, they need structure, and I think it's something where wherever you set the goals and the expectations, they're going to strive for that. So if you set them low, they're gonna strive low, and if you set them high, they're going to strive high. And so we set a pretty high expectation, across the board in everything we do, and it becomes a culture of what our team's doing. And I think that's something we're really fortunate and happy with, is that our guys are bought into what we're doing, where we're headed. We have a zero tolerance policy on drugs and alcohol. The focus is school and wrestling and making these guys the best young men they can be, and ultimately, productive members of society in whichever field they choose. But that's we draw a pretty hard line on that. I'd put our training up there with just about any team. I think we train really hard. We're pretty strategic in how we train too, though. Academically, we're in the top 10 in the country this past year. We don't have anybody on our team below a 3.0.
Wow.
I think we've got maybe one guy below a 3.3 on our team. And
Jeez.
so we got a pretty academic minded team, and something we do with our guys that isn't unique only to us, but there's not a lot of programs that do it, is we get all our guys their masters in their 5 years here. Because again, if they're a red shirt, why waste a year and get them ready for that next step in their life? And so academically, we have a pretty high standard. We don't put up a lot of crap. Socially, we don't put up a lot of crap. And then
Mhm.
wrestling wise, it's, you're here for school and wrestling, and we have high expectations for these guys. And, we want to be a team that wins a team trophy at the NCAA tournament, becomes a top 4 team. Obviously, it hasn't been done yet here. And we're not there yet, but that's what we're striving for. And if you ask anybody on our team, I think, they'll tell you, and everybody's on the same page with that.
Okay. And so the theme is be uncommon. Is that kind of the theme,
Yep.
right? Explain
Yep.
that a little bit, and what makes, you know, makes you guys different.
Yeah. So I think it's all the stuff we just talked about, but
Mm.
it's, do the little things that most people aren't willing to do,
Okay.
make those little sacrifices throughout the day. To us, the way that you win is not just the practice you do every day, but it's the way you live your life. It's the relationships you have with your teammates, your coaches, your friends, your family around you. It's the way you study, the way you eat, the way you sleep, the way you train. It's the way you go about your daily life, and you got to enjoy your daily life to be as successful as you should be. And so we have a pretty good environment. It's a fun environment, but our guys are serious and bought in, and it's just the be uncommon is doing all the little things most people aren't willing to do, and it's going above and beyond. And so that's why you see, on our team, like I said, nobody's below a 3-1. It's that's the standard. There's a higher standard than that, and so it's that's hard to do with 30 guys on a team at the college level. But it's a pretty special group that's bought in, and whether they're the best guy on our team or the worst guy on our team, they're all held to the same standard across the board. And so I think that's something that was really important to me as a coach, is that everybody, regardless how many matches you win or what you bring to the table, everybody in our program brings something to the table, and makes our team better in some way. And so everybody has value in our program, and so they're all held to the same standard.
Awesome. You touched on coaches, and you have a really great staff there. When you're, actively recruiting a coach, what are some of the qualities you look for? Maybe something that complements you, or what are the qualities you looking for?
Well, the big thing is they got to be great mentors to our team, right? They got to
Mhm.
be people that, understand the philosophy of what we're doing and they're bought into it. But it's that old adage that you want to surround yourself with people that are better than you. And so that's what I try to do. And so, obviously I've been very fortunate, excuse me, but Cam Mappert and Mike DePalma have done an amazing job, and they make me better. And they challenge me, and I don't want yes men in the program. I don't want people who are just like, yeah, that's what you want to do. Great. I want them to be able to say, coach, or, Frank, you're kind of crazy here. This, maybe we should reevaluate this. And it doesn't mean I'm just to say, yeah, okay, we're going to do what you want to do. But it's, there's an open relationship. We have a very good relationship with the three of us. There's no ego in our staff. Everybody's on the same page. But there's also there are times where I'm like, I think we should do this. What do you guys think? And, it's like, all right, we're going to talk about it. Here's the good, the bad, the ugly of, what each of us think. And then we come to a consensus, and then we go on and we're all on the same page moving forward. It's not like, we're holding like, well, I want to do this and you want to do this. So, there's some kind of power struggle. It's like, hey, maybe there's something I'm not seeing as the head coach that you guys are seeing that, that we need to change, tactic of what we're doing in this situation or in recruiting or in the room or whatever. And I think that's a big part of it, is that there isn't a lot of egos. There is no ego between those guys and myself. And so, they all have input into everything that we do with our program. I want guys that want to be career coaches on my staff, that want to, be a head coach someday. Obviously I hope those guys don't want to, go anytime soon. And I think they're pretty committed to being here for a while. But those guys want to be head coaches and want to be here and learn and work together. And I think we have a very cohesive staff. And I think that's something that's really important, and something that's a little hard to find at a lot of schools, across the country. And that those guys, they don't have an ego. They come in, they work extremely hard, and, they give everything they got to these guys, and they make them better men, and obviously better wrestlers. But they've had a huge impact on our program. I mean, I think before I took the job, I called Cam, so something I've always done is I've always kept a list of coaches that I wanted to hire if somebody were to leave. So, let's just say, as the head coach, I've got a list of guys who, if my head assistant leaves, that would be in that, that I want to go after.
A good succession planning, right? I mean, you just have
and volunteer. And so I've always done that, even as an assistant. Whenever somebody would leave, I always wanted to have a plan of like, these are the people on my target. And so Cam had been on at the top of my list for a while, as an assistant where I was before. And so whenever I was about to take this position, I called him and I was like, hey, I need you here. I want to hire you. And, I didn't know him, the best yet, but I knew about him. I'd done my research, and he had been top that list. So even before I took this job, I was like, this is the guy I'm going to build this program with. And he came in and has done an even better job than I expected, and he's a great coach, and he's getting better and works to improve every day. And so he's done a great job, and he could take over a program right now and do a great job, just about anywhere in the country at any level. And he's super organized and on top of things. And from every aspect, he could run a program. And then Coach DePalma came in this past year. He's been here a little over a year. And so we had an opening on our staff. And again, he was the first person on my list. He's the only person I contacted. Same thing as Cam, is like, all right, when this is happening, I'm going to reach out to this guy. And, if he shoots me down, he shoots me down, but we'll move on and go to number 2. But he was at the top of the list. And, I had tried to recruit him to NC State several years before that, when he was transferring from Edinburgh. He ended up going to Kent State. And, I had always maintained a good relationship with him. I thought he had a great personality for the coaching side of things and the recruiting side. And I thought he was doing a really good job as the head assistant at Edinburgh, with his recruiting and the way I watch other coaches at tournaments, right? I always got to be ready. Mm-hmm. And I just, I evaluated him through the season, the way he interacted with the kids on his team at the conference tournament, our dual meet. And I'm just kind of always subconsciously doing that with coaches. And I was really impressed with him. And I thought, he had a lot of the right tools to be a great coach. And so obviously I went after him and was very fortunate that he came and he stepped in and did a great job. And I think he's somebody that, he really wants to get better. And he's always, asking questions and always trying to improve himself. And so I think, that's something that really sets him apart, is that, like, he'll be like, I don't have this figured out. He's got a pretty good idea. He's got he's got it pretty figured out, honestly, but he'll be like, I don't have this figured out. Why do you do this way or this way? Why not this way? And he really wants to, see through, all the options and what's best for him. And so I've been very fortunate. Those guys are, continuing to grow and improve and making me better as a coach as well.
Nice.
Part of my job is to develop them as coaches as much as it is to develop my team.
Right.
My job is to develop them as coaches so they can become head coaches.
Right. I'm sure you learned a lot from Coach Pop through that, right? And how to do
No
that.
doubt.
Right? Yeah.
No doubt. I mean, he was a huge mentor for me. I was with him for, at Binghamton and then at NC State. And so I was with him for a long time and I learned a ton from him and, all kinds of aspects, and pretty much every aspect of coaching I've learned from him. And so, I still lean on him. I ask him for advice and in certain areas. And obviously he's done a great job everywhere he's been. And so, I like to pick his brain and he was very helpful to me in my development and that he gave me a lot of rope to, do well or hang myself right in a lot of areas. And so, so I learned that a lot from him is, he's not a guy that has a lot of ego and like, well, I'm doing this and that. It's like, you want to take this on, go ahead, I'll give you some advice, but I want to see how you do. And if you don't do well, then, I'll show you what you got to do, and fix it. But you got to go out and do it. To learn it. And so if you fail, you fail and then we'll fix it after and figure it out. But, I want you to learn how to do it. And so he really did that a lot with me and I was super appreciative that he did that and I learned a ton from him.
That's awesome. You touched on recruiting a couple times there. In today's day and age with everything going on, is there something you've learned? You seem like a very analytical and precise coach, but is there anything you've learned through this, like from a recruiting side or what you can do different now going forward? Maybe you or as a staff?
Yeah, well, recruiting's a little bit of a crapshoot. You never know what you're going to get, right? But you can always make an educated decision. You can always you can never talk to enough people. That's one of the things that I think we do really well as a staff is, we really do our homework on kids that we're recruiting because at the end of the day, like I said, the standard's pretty high here of, across the board. And I think we're going to see the results of that standard over the next 5 or 10 years, and then long-term even. But we don't want to compromise, right? That's the biggest thing is, just because a kid's good, just because he's really good, he might not be a great fit for us. If he doesn't meet these certain expectations, it doesn't matter how many matches he wins because he's not going to make it here. And so, I think that's something where, we won't compromise in the character work ethic of a kid is that, character, lifestyle, work ethic. Those are 3 areas we won't compromise on. So we've been very fortunate to recruit some good kids in. We got a good 4-man group that's coming in this coming year that I think fit that. A couple of those guys are Ohio guys, but it's not always the number 1 ranked kids in the country. And, if you look at what we did at, everywhere I've been, it wasn't always the number 1 ranked kids in the countries that were breaking through and winning at the highest level is the guys that fit the philosophy and expectations of our program. And we're doing the same thing here. And it helps if they're also, the number 1 kid in the country coming out, but they don't necessarily have to be because I do believe you can pass those guys up by doing everything right and being uncommon. And so that's where, we're going to find the people that fit our expectation. And then we're going to make them better. And I think we have a track record of developing our guys. Everything we do is planned out and detailed. We don't do anything on a whim. We don't do anything because it's like, well, we did this workout and it was hard and we were good. There's a plan and a reason behind everything we do. And we do everything well in advance and plan it out because, it's not just off the cuff. It's what's going to make us where we want to be at the end of the day. It's that long-term gratification over short-term gratification. And, certainly there are times where I'm like, I just want to throw this really hard workout at them, but, maybe that doesn't make sense. Maybe it can be really hard, but it needs to be like this to get us to where we want to be in March.
Right. And long-term planning is hard right now, right? With all the unknowns, right?
A lot of changes this year, a lot of changes.
Yeah. So what's it look like right now for you guys? What's I guess, as of this moment, what's it looking like?
Yeah, well, I mean, it could change in 10 seconds from now. Who knows?
Right.
But the plan is to compete in January. Right now, we're looking to probably open the season mid-January. We're still trying to finalize the schedule. which is an ongoing thing. I mean, I had
Mhm.
a coach call me yesterday that we're supposed to have a quad, and a team had backed out of the quad. And so it is what it is. That's not happened. If there's anything we've learned from football and basketball already this year, is that there's going to be constant changes, pauses, interruptions. Um, Unexpected things happen throughout the year. Whether it's guys on our team out, guys on another team out, teams on pause for a period of time, our team, another team, whatever. There's going to be a lot of interruptions. But if we have some kind of season, then that's what really matters. And I think the biggest thing is that the kids that are really motivated, um, and really dedicated are going to come out on top regardless, because they're going to find ways to work out. They're going to find ways to get better and improve, whether they're sick, they're not sick, their team's on pause, they can lift, they can't lift, whatever it is. I
Right.
think the kids that have that makeup of of that character, work ethic, and commitment are going to find a way. And so I think that at the end of the day, the best guys are going to figure it out, and the kids that it matters most to are going to figure it out. And I think fortunately we have a lot of those guys here, and so there's going to be all kinds of crazy interruptions. But right now our plan is to train and compete, be mid-January. And how many duels we'll end up having, I would give you a different number yesterday, today probably a different number tomorrow, I don't know. But we're gonna have some duels, and then postseason starts with the max the last weekend of February, and then nationals. And so again, it's that long term that matters. And so I would love to wrestle a ton of duels. I don't know how many we'll end up with, but whatever it is, we're gonna be ready for the MAC tournament and the national tournament, and that's gonna be our focus. So I hope to wrestle sooner than later. The sooner we wrestle, the better. I
Right.
love to compete and wrestle, but it would be hard to say what it looks like, at this point.
Do you think this could have any? Excuse me. I know there's been talks for a long time of making a semester sport. Do you think this could, I guess, be that catalyst for that, or any other long term impacts you see this having on college wrestling?
Um, yeah, I mean, I think we're going to learn a lot from this year, and I think it's hard to evaluate what we're going to learn at this point. I
Right.
think, there's going to definitely be a shortened season for every team in the country this year.
Mhm.
I think that's probably a good thing. Now, do I want 5 or 7 matches before the national
Right.
tournament?
Right.
And if you look historically, I'm a coach that likes to compete a lot, and our guys will have 40 45 matches a lot of times, because if you're a wrestler, you want to compete. The training's the hard, kind of sucky part of it, right? And
Right.
so
Right.
I like to have my guys compete as much as possible, and see their development. And the same thing in the off season. We hit all the freestyle tournaments, other than this year because COVID regulations.
Right.
But we hit all the freestyle tournaments because we want to compete, and we want to compete all the time, and train, and have something to train for, year round. And so I like to compete a lot. I do think the season's a little bit long, and could be shortened. I don't know if this will be the catalyst for it or not. I do think
Mm.
we'll find some changes that come from this. Obviously, like, one thing that's unique this year is that it's not costing anybody a year, so you're going to see all the best guys are going to wrestle without a red shirt. You can have the guys that would be red shirt and traveling with you. You can see teams that travel their whole team to matches, which could be really exciting. And
Right. Right.
there could be some regulations where you can only travel so many guys. So who knows what that's going to look like? But I think there's going to be some kind of good come out of this. I'm a little bit of an optimist that hopefully leadership in our sport sees positives and negatives out of this, and adapts, and makes it better because of what we're going through. But I do think we could shorten the season a little bit. But I also say that as a coach that likes to
Like
wrestle
to
a bunch
go.
of tournaments and
Yeah.
wrestle a lot. So
Yeah.
I think there's a balancing act. And if you look at over the last few years that I've been here, a lot of our guys wrestle a lot of matches, but some of them don't wrestle as much. Sometimes we got a guy on our team that's in his 6th year this year that we weren't necessarily planning on wrestling him as much, just because he has a 6th year for a reason. He's had some injuries, his body's
Hmm.
a little beat up over years. I mean, wrestling in college is a grind, and especially over 4, 5, 6 years. And so you got to be a little bit more strategic with those kind of guys. So I think there's a balancing act, and I think that's something that helps separate the best coaches, is that they're able to adjust and modify things for each individual on their team, while staying fair to everybody, but are able to make it the best situation for everybody on their team.
Navigating through this as a coach, at the highest level, I know the home life, you need that balance there too, right? And your wife comes from a wrestling family, is that correct?
Yeah. Her brother wrestled. He was third in Pennsylvania
Wow.
twice, and in the finals his senior year. Yeah, he was pretty good. And then he wrestled at Bloomsburg for a year, and then he went to UVA for 4 years, and
Cool.
was in the round of 12 at UVA his senior year. Was an ACC champion and was pretty good. He was actually in his senior year in the round of 12. He was wrestling Zach Sanders, was beating him and was in his best position with about 10 seconds left, and got reversed. So, but was right there, beat some really good guys over the years. And, now he's a doctor in Texas, and he
Nice.
actually helped me out. My first year here was he was in med school here locally, was helped me out as I forget what the title was we made up for him, but he wasn't technically a coach, but he was on staff helping us out, and a great person. And so I actually met her through him. And
Cool.
so we've been together for a while now, since I guess my junior year or senior year in college, and got two great kids.
That's awesome. Yeah, it definitely
But
makes it
yeah, she
easier.
loves wrestling.
Yeah. You
I'd
learn
be in
anything
trouble
for
if she didn't.
yeah, it's not easy to do if you don't have the home involved, right? Uh, Coach Brees mentioned, I need to ask you about the pants. What's up with the pants? And
Yeah.
the one year,
I,
what was it, 4 pairs of pants that split? What was it?
Yeah, I get a little excited, matches, jump around, acting a fool. And, I think I've ripped a couple pairs of pants in my day. The one year is pretty bad. I guess, maybe I just had the wrong brand of suit or something. There's probably something faulty with the suits. The other thing is when I'm doing a lot of recruiting, I gain a little bit of weight because I'm, eating out a lot and taking recruits to dinner, or, hitting the road and, eating too much fast food or whatnot. So my weight fluctuates a little bit. Maybe, I was a little, maybe that was part of it. I'm not sure, but yeah, I jump around a lot, move around a lot when I'm coaching. I've been known to rip out a few pairs of pants. I think one match, I think Adam Hall and I both ripped out pants in the one match. We get excited. So yeah, it's part of it.
Oh man, that's makes me think. This past weekend, I mentioned we had a youth tournament here in Ohio, and we have a group of guys that help at a lot of the events, and everyone's like, "Man, my pants are a little tighter this year." And a lot of sitting around. As first time we're putting the dress pants on or whatever for the event or whatever it may be. And there's a few different guys that mentioned, "Man, these are a little tight." But you have any stories of Coach Brees? Has have some experiences together, right? You got any of him or any other coaches?
Yeah. No, I coached with Jeff at NC State, and he's a good friend and a good man, a great coach. And I think probably the story that comes to mind on Jeff, right off the bat would be, this kind of tells you the kind of person he is. I think it was our first year at NC State. We were at Penn State Open for a tournament, and the Penn State Open used to be a huge tournament.
Mhm.
And I went up a few days early, and I did this kind of string of recruiting where I did watch a couple of practices, went to a tournament, did a home visit, and so I saw a handful of kids on my way up to Pennsylvania. And it was a long couple of days because it was like I'd hit one, I'd drive, a couple hours, hit somebody else. And it was a long couple of days. And then we had that tournament, and that tournament was all day long, and, it used to be a pretty big tournament. And so at the end of that tournament, I was completely exhausted. I shot, it's 8, 9 o'clock at night, and I'm about to jump in my car to drive back. So I took a rental car up, and they were on the bus, and one thing leads to another, and Jeff actually drives the car back after being there coaching and taking care of the guys all day. And I jumped on the bus and slept the whole way back. And so I will forever be indebted to Jeff for doing that, because there was no way I was going to make it, probably a half hour before I had to pull over and get a hotel. But yeah, he drove all through the night, came back, and he was at work the next morning at, 7 a.m. or whatever. He drove all through the night, dropped off the car. I think he went home and showered and then came into work. So I'll be indebted to him, but that kind of tells you the kind of person he is, and just a good man. And so I definitely appreciate him for that one. I don't think I would have made it through.
Yeah, that's all. That sounds like something he would do. I've been able to get to know him the last few years, and we're definitely blessed to have him here in Ohio. What a great guy all around, and I love seeing what he's doing there at Lake Erie College. Doing a great job. So, um, any other coaches you kind of have some story? I think we had Scott Green on. I know you mentioned Coach Pop. Any other stories you have from your days, coaching with them?
There's a million stories on
Yeah.
on a lot of coaches, but maybe we'll save those
Okay.
for a little different time.
Okay.
But yeah, I got stories on a lot of people over the years. I mean, wrestling world is full of colorful characters, and there's a lot of good people in this sport, and so a lot of crazy ones too.
Yeah,
So
that's the truth. I'm both. Yeah, good and crazy. That's the truth. Um, for a new coach out there, there's always new coaches every year. Do you have any I know you like to read, any book recommendations you'd have for a new coach?
um, for a new coach, I mean, there's so many good books out there,
Mm-hmm.
on different aspects of coaching and that kind of thing. The thing that really kind of comes to mind isn't necessarily a book, but I like to read about basically the relationships, the way you treat people, and the way you interact with people. I think that's there's a lot of like business and management books and stuff like that. I think you can learn so much from just about any of those. I wouldn't necessarily recommend any one in particular, but that's something that I would put out there, is that there's a million options as far as that goes.
Okay. Anyone you recommend that we should have on here that we haven't had on yet?
Well, definitely Cam and Mike. Those guys
Okay.
are those guys are awesome. They're killing it. They do some special things as coaches, and already are even better people. And so those guys do a great job.
I'll have to reach out. We talked earlier about Mikey wrestled with my brother at Kent, so I'd like to hear from him for sure. Kind of that common bond, but maybe I can get him on, separately, or even do a dual episode, have him on at the same time or something even. So, you have anything else? Anything you want to ask, share, tell, or talk about?
Not in particular. I'm just excited for the season. I know it's a lot of uncertainty, but at the end of the day, if we're able to compete, as a sport, it's good. And it really makes you appreciate what we have. Appreciate the ability to go out and compete every weekend during season, when it's been a while since we've been able to compete, and
Right.
can't wait until January, whatever date that first match is going to be, to start competing. But I think it makes you appreciate kind of the freedom we have to go out and compete a lot, and it just shows how special that is to be able to do. And I think we all kind of feel that once our competition career is over, and
Mhm.
it's like, oh yeah, I'm done, but I think even now as a coach, I appreciate it more after going through this whole
Right.
pandemic.
That's for certain. The kids I coach, I tell them every day, you get to do this day, right? It's a day at a time. You get to do this, when it's whatever they have going on in their personal life, that, at the high school level, we know how they can be, and just keep reminding them every day, you get to be here. It's not promised. That's for certain. So I
Well,
got
it's one
to,
of those things, you're always like, you never know what's going to happen, when it's going to end. Have some kind of injury, you have something happen, you don't know when it's going to end. But it kind of ended for everybody there for a little while, and it kind of gives you that, like, wow, we should be appreciative every time we're able to compete, and enjoy it. And too many people, that I see compete, especially at the high school level, it's like, you know you should love it every time. You should enjoy it every time. It's an opportunity. There shouldn't be any dread or angst. I know making weight sucks sometimes, but
Mhm,
it's we're fortunate to be able to
mhm.
compete and step on the mat, and express ourselves that way.
Yeah, 100% for sure. Well, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Definitely gonna be following you guys. I have to reach out to those guys and get them on here soon. So thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me.